What is up, everybody, for a very special episode of Nonstop Tabletop, where today, as always, we always start the video off with some jazz hands, finger guns, whatever you want to do to get yourself ready. Go ahead and do that. Before we get into the main topic, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Really does help us out a lot. And last thing before we get started, make sure to check out Guys Cradle, East Providence, Rhode Island. Not a sponsorship plug, just helping out a friend because we love him so much.
Sure.
Anyway, I'm good. I'm good now at getting that shit down. But we're here for Star Wars Shatterpoint, the newest game announced by Atomic Mass Games. It is not Legion. It is not Armada, RIP, and it is not X-Wing. It is a brand new game. It is a skirmish game. So it's, I think did they say it was 3x3? They had to have, right?
Let's see. We have it. I have it pulled up right here.
Not
don't say it outright, but the implication is there because the bases look extremely similar to MCP bases. It's a skirmish game. The only two skirmish modes that they have under their umbrella right now are 3x3, if I'm remembering correctly. So I think it's safe to assume that it's a 3x3, and they won't stray too far from that. But who knows?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And for the most part, skirmish games tend to be that size. I don't think they can go any smaller too, because you do have games like Kill Team. Those are a little smaller. They're on
Yeah, Warcry and Kill Team. And Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl's the same. They're all the same size board. It's not 3x3.
Blood Bowl, at least though, that's like Blood Bowl. At least that's like a field. This is kind of like more like supposed to be like a rugby field, I guess. So it's kind of supposed to be like that. But yeah, those Warcry, Kill Team, those are smaller. They're also skirmish games, but the minis are also smaller too. Kind of
Yeah,
scale-wise, they're smaller.
Yeah, scale-wise,
They
they're
tend to be bigger, but
definitely
scale-wise,
not.
they're smaller. So I can't imagine this being any smaller than 3x3, and I'd be kind of weird if it was bigger than 3x3.
But yeah, this is a squad-based skirmish game, and it's going to be Atomic Mass Games. Right out of the gate, we have to mention that they did go on record and say this is not the death of Legion, X-Wing, or Armada. I would like to think Armada is probably shifting towards towards their end of the life cycle. Granted, we're not Krabok here. We're not Krabok or anybody that fully supports Star Wars games. We're just fans of the license and avid players of Legion, for at least for me, for the most part. I know Ryan plays a lot more than we do, but
I play it quite often. I'm a big fan.
It is just worth noting that, like, I don't even remember the last time anything for Armada was released. X-Wings, it was something recent, I know that, and they keep like making print and play stuff for X-Wing, so at least there's that. And Legion still, they just had Mando, they just had the assassin droids, the IGs. Thank you.
They still have Gideon with Death Troopers.
Yeah, we know there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline for Legion, so I'm not afraid for Legion. I think Armada and X-Wing, if they do happen to end, I don't think it'll have anything to do with this. I think it'll have a lot to do with the fact that
the games are
so
old.
many ships.
Yeah, there's
forever.
There's only so much you can do, which is the unfortunate truth. I know if I was playing, I haven't played Armada, but if I was playing it and told that it was towards its end, I would be upset. But there's only so many ships and everything. It was pretty quiet Armada-wise even before the shift from Fantasy Flight to Atomic Mass.
Yeah, there was nothing at Mini Extravaganza for Armada, I don't think.
Yeah, they had announced shortly after them taking control of it that they weren't going to be developing anything new for a while, at least. During Mini Extravaganza, they did talk about it because they were going to re-release some ships.
Okay.
Partly because the pandemic, everything was getting all messed up shipping wise, so they were during Mini Extravaganza they were talking about trying to determine what was the most desirable ships to re-release to try to restock for store shelves for Armada. So at least they're still making them. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this, I don't know, this might take away attention from Armada. This might X-Wing they haven't really released anything new model wise. It's been a lot of cards, print and play stuff, like it was already said.
Yeah.
I don't know how many other ships they can. I think they're getting into a point where there's not a ton of new ships to really release. I know these shows, the Star Wars shows, are kind of helping, but it's not super fast.
Yeah,
No.
So
well, and a lot of those shows, because of a lot of them taking place when they take place, you're not really getting a lot of new stuff. You're just seeing like ships that were in the background suddenly not in the background,
yeah,
and I don't know how much, but that's not why we're here.
right.
No, so
We don't think Armada and X-wing are going anywhere because of this game. Let's put it that way.
we're just saying
I
that
don't
because
think...
it's old, and I don't think AMG wants to do it. But moving past that,
Maybe I like it.
we're here talking about Shatterpoint, not goddamn old space games, nerds. Anyway, with here's
new space game.
yeah, I want to talk about this new space game that's not even out yet, and it's gonna be set in a time far, far away. I switched it up
I
on
think
you.
it's a time long, long ago.
I know I swapped it because I want to, not because I totally forgot, but because I want to. Anyway,
Okay, I believe you.
now here's my thing. Do you think this is going to be one of those scenarios where it's going to play similarly to MCP, or do you think they're going to try to have it be different enough to try to bring both fans in, like Marvel fans and Star Wars fans? What do you guys think?
I think
Or
there's
yeah,
a world where Shatterpoint is similar enough to MCP where people are able to play them together, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. I think there's a possibility that how the mechanics of both games work, where in no official capacity, but in sort of an unofficial capacity, say I'm like really trying to play something involving Star Wars and you really want to play something involving Marvel, I think there might be a world where I could field Star Wars stuff and you could field Marvel stuff. But I also think there's a world where they're trying super hard to make them completely different, and this is going to function absolutely different. And the only real similarities is the scale, because they do appear to have the same scale. The bases for the Star Wars thing are essentially MCP bases, but just with a different texture on them, as opposed to the boring city streets. They look more like boring, I don't know, ship hallways or whatever. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that it's somewhat similar to MCP because we really like MCP, and playing it's really fun. And I think it does a really good job making the heroes feel like heroes, where they have like lots to do. So it would be cool if, like Anakin, can always throw his lightsaber instead of like Legion, where you like have to bring a pack or something. Maybe this will be a nice sweet spot between Legion and MCP.
All right, Nick, what do you think?
yeah. I mean, I get worried that it would be too similar in a sense. So it's kind of like if the games are really similar and you only have minor differences or whatever, um, and you bring them both to the table, then it's gonna turn into which IP do you feel like playing? And then for me, I do really like Star Wars, just because of all the new stuff and everything, kind of gets me excited for it and stuff like that. So if it might end up turning into I'd rather play one over the other anyways, and not really want to do this other thing that's similar, just because like I don't know, I might rather do this other one. Um, that being said, though, I can't imagine that they make it super similar. Otherwise, it would be kind of redundant, and then it would almost be like, why bother? It would just be this, unless you just want to get the Star Wars IP out. But
Yeah.
even then, um, it um it does seem like, looking at the video, that there is a lot of, for lack of a better word, grunts on the field. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering if that's going to drastically change how things work. Maybe the heroes won't be as powerful as, like an MCP hero would be. Not saying that they'll be like, doing nothing on the field. They'll probably still be big players, but just like, one of the things I was thinking of, like, so in MCP, you got people throwing buildings and stuff like that. You might not see that as much in in this Shatterpoint.
Except maybe like if
You'd have like force throws and stuff
yeah, I was
like
gonna
that.
say
but I
like
can't
Darth
imagine
Vader
you're throwing
could,
fake stuff.
but like
Yeah.
obviously this is also another thing noteworthy before Nick finishes his thought. This is only prequel era for the most part. Yeah,
this
there's
is
nothing.
Clone Wars era stuff. There's nothing from before it. I mean, even some of the Jedi heroes are characters I genuinely don't recognize. I'm sure people who love Clone Wars and who love the extended universe know exactly who these two Jedi
There's a
are.
homie from from one of the shows. I know that.
The green ones.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I don't know
They
them
were both in the show. I can't remember their names. They were in Clone Wars. I think
because there's like the Night
one of
Sisters.
them.
They showed them already, and that's from Clone Wars.
Yeah, Sarge
Yeah, that's
Ventress,
Clone Wars era. The Sarge Ventress, who's a Night Sisters.
Jango Fett,
Clone Wars.
yeah, there's nothing from outside of the Clone Wars at all.
Yeah, the orange girl with blue lightsaber. She betrays like the Jedi and everything. She's a pretty big character in Clone Wars.
Thank you.
Spoiler alert, if you didn't see it.
Great. Now I can't. Now you're
It's
the
only been,
reason
like,
why
10
I'll
years.
never watch it. Thank
Spoil-
you. Thanks for giving me my
Spoiler.
reason. Great. Appreciate you. Yeah. So here's my thing. I'm a fan of both franchises, right? So I really like Marvel and I really like Star Wars. My brain usually gravitates more towards big dudes with lightsabers, especially when they're big robot men, as I've mentioned many times on this channel. I do like big robot men, especially big robot men with 4 lightsabers in their hand. So now you're going to tell me that there's a skirmish game where I could take a big robot man with big 4 robot arms and take him around the skirmish board, which I vastly prefer a little bit more. I wish Legion's skirmish was a little bit better. Just not my thing. Anyway, but that's besides the point. Gets me really excited.
Just the range.
Yeah, I agree. So my thought is, here's my weird prediction. I think no matter what you do, I think there's going to be more minis on the board with this game. Because you're going to have a dude and you're going to lead a dude, at least one other dude. So for every like one character that you see with MCP, that's my guess, is you're going to see like 2 or 3 minis on the board. So that's going to be my bold prediction. Maybe I could be right. I could be wrong.
I think every hero you field is going to come with exactly one sort of support or grunt type character. I clicked through the reveal trailer. There's not a single frame in the entire reveal trailer where the number of heroes and the number of random clones or droids is not equal in terms of characters on bases. So if you click through it, like Anakin and Captain Rex in the background, there's 2 regular clones. There's a shot of Grievous. Actually, I lied. There's exactly one shot where Grievous is in front of 4 B2s, but each set of 2 B2s is on one base.
Mhm.
And then in later things, it's Grievous
Yeah.
and Dooku and the B2s in the background.
Yep.
Like,
that was my thought, is that the B1s were going to be, there's going to be 2 of them anyway, and they weren't obviously going to be great. But we don't know what.
3
put-
B1s.
they put
on
Oh,
the
there's
base.
3 B1s.
Like
Yeah.
the Hydra Troopers.
Hopefully they're
Yeah,
not
so that's
a
very-
nightmare
very
to
grunt-like.
build.
Yeah, so these
Um,
it appears to be like like maybe the grunt system from MCP was something that they kind of rolled over from their development of this game, and they were like, this seems interesting and we've maybe figured out the mechanics of it on this side, so let's try and put it in MCP to like field test it and see exactly how it works. I could see that being sort of how it all worked out, because this is bringing some high key grunt vibes.
yeah.
Now which is nice. So that's our take, or at least mine anyway. I don't want to speak for anybody else. Is that more than likely you're going to see a lot more units on the board. I think that's a pretty fun thing to see. Is you're going to have the same size board, and there's just going to be more stuff going on. Speaking of which, what I want so bad, and Ryan mentioned this before we pressed the record button, and I was thinking that, and I totally agree. Please, make more missions for this game.
Yeah.
Make more.
Yeah.
Make them.
So, on that note, one of the things to note on I gotta say note multiple times. One of the things that they mentioned in the reveal is that it's supposed to have dynamically evolving mission objectives. Now, nobody knows what anything is in this game really that based on this reveal trailer, but
Mm-mm.
maybe that means there is something a little more interactive and changing on the battlefield than what you would see like in Crisis Protocol. I wouldn't consider Crisis Protocol to necessarily be dynamically evolving mission objectives.
No.
Sure, some of them move, but so
Yeah.
maybe that turns into something where it's like somebody has to go rescue somebody and then escort them somewhere else or something. I don't know. Um, but that could be interesting.
Maybe they have phases to the missions or something where like the game doesn't end because you've contested the objective too much. It's like, well, there's 3 chapters to this, and whoever completes their objective in each chapter gets like a point, and then at the end you compare. So
Mhm.
like that could be cool because you're right. MCP is not dynamic. You know,
So
the crises essentially never change
yeah.
based on the crises. They only change based on what you're doing around them.
Yep. And here's my fear, and I hope that they're not using this in terms of like big word branding. So like epic mission dynamic, because they have gone on record in saying I'd have to find the article. I genuinely don't remember where it was. They have said that MCP follows like a high, like basically along the same verbiage of like a high dynamic mission thing, because technicality it is constantly different because it's 2 different objectives form the mission. So there's how many different combinations? We never know. I'm just saying that I hope they're not using this as fancy verbiage to ultimately be the same thing. That's my fear, and I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Because I think that's everyone's concern with MCP is the game's great. It's just for the love of God, man, make some missions, dude, especially red ones that actually are playable and won't get banned.
Yes. They keep
Yeah,
banning red ones.
yeah, they don't seem
It's
to roll them out as much as they should.
yeah. I don't know. Also, you know, the dioramas that they sort of set up for this game for the trailer
Reveal.
are really cool looking. I'm sort of curious as to if any of this will end up being like terrain on release. Like some of it obviously won't, there's like giant structures in the backgrounds of part of it, but like
I
there's
want
a shot
those.
where Maul and Gar Saxon with their 2 Maul DeLoreans are just standing on this sort of like elevated bridge thing.
Mm.
Yeah, and they show that a lot with it's like these 2 orangish looking buildings holding it up. Like if you go
Yeah,
through all the scenes,
all
they
the
they do show those
footage.
buildings a lot. So maybe they'll be
Yeah,
released in some way.
it would be cool because like some of the larger structures definitely won't, but yeah, you're right, there's like these sort of orange buildings in the backgrounds of like a ton of shots, so it'd be cool if they released terrain for this game. Maybe if nothing else they could like print terrain sizes on these that correspond to MCP to help give us more stuff that's officially produced by them to put on the board.
Yeah.
We're all aware of the 3D printed terrain and how good that can be, but it would be nice if we had access to some
Yeah,
more
sure.
like officially printed terrain that has a printed size, so we don't have to agree upon it at the beginning of the game and all this stuff. That would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hope that in this game terrain exists more on the map, I guess. Like
That
MCP, you kind of have
elevation matters.
yeah, like in MCP, you have the heights of the terrain, but that's only for movement and or the sizes of terrain, and so it only matters for movement and throwing for the most part. You do have some line of sight where if you can't see them and the sizing and everything, but it's all pretty light compared to a lot of other war games, even Legion. Um,
Yeah.
so it wouldn't be bad if like, and it also turns into to be kind of weird where you have somebody on a building throwing a punch at somebody who's not on a building, and
Yeah.
it's I know they say it's like, oh well, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a punch, but still, it doesn't like being on top of a building doesn't seem to mean much compared to a lot of other games.
Yeah.
So hopefully like height matters. I mean, it would make sense for Star Wars, having the high ground. Maybe there's
What?
more shooty stuff, so maybe there's more cover and everything.
Yep. because covering MCP is a nightmare.
I
Yeah.
something cool too. I would love it if they try to incorporate the idea more. And granted, they do with in Legion with deflect, but how cool would that be too? It's just like if you're a grunt and then you're shooting at a lightsaber guy and lightsaber pew and like reflects it back and like you roll the dice and stuff like that. I feel like you're gonna get a lot more potential for like more epic gamer moves, dude. Sorry, my Fortnite-ness came out. I couldn't help it. I feel like with the cool aspect of lightsabers and Jedi and shit, it's just such a better way to just highlight over Luke Cage. What does he do? Well, he's indestructible.
Yeah, this game has the potential to be way more flashy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean that in terms of like sort of rolling dice. We've said a little bit of shit talk about MCP in this, but I love that game.
Oh, I love the game, but like
Yeah,
that's
no,
why I talk shit about it is because I love it and I want to see it continue to be great. And I feel like they're in a bad spot right now only because everyone is begging and pleading make more missions and they just won't do it. They're just not doing it.
Yeah.
And we haven't heard it.
It's got to be really hard to balance that shit.
And speaking of balance, we haven't heard anything about a balance update potentially. Granted, I don't think they ever confirmed if they're going to do it every year, but you know.
No,
yeah,
I don't think they did.
Specifically said that they would. It was just kind of thought, hoped,
community hope.
The copium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hopium.
Yes, that's better. But yeah,
worth mentioning too.
Mm.
Ben and I were talking about this beforehand about the size of the bases. General Grievous does have a larger base than Obi-Wan. It's noticeably bigger, but I don't think it's the same size difference that MCP has. I think the smaller bases for Legion or for Shatterpoint are gonna be
so
like maybe a couple millimeters.
It's worth pointing out
like 10.
A couple of the minis are literally, and people have pointed this out on Twitter, they're literally on MCP bases. You could see they're painted over, which is fine. That my guess is either.
Actually, I think you could see it on Grievous's in this shot that
there's
I'm looking
one
at.
of them. There's one of
you
them.
Can see the cracks.
Yeah, you can see the cracks, and there's one of them. You could see the grid of the sewer cap. You can see it. So either it's just a prototype, and I think they're gonna be the exact same size. Just personally, reasonably, it's cheaper. It's just cheaper to do, and it's just because they just make this. They cut out the thing. They just while it's still hot, they just print it. They tape it down with something else, like a different mold or whatever.
And you can tell this is a resin prototype.
Yeah.
By the way, if you look at Grievous, like all of his lightsabers are sort of pointing in different directions than the hilts are and stuff, and that's a pretty clear sign that they're painting resin as opposed to like the hard plastic that we're used to in MCP. So, and we know that this isn't coming out until summer of 2023. I think Nick earlier mentioned that it was June, but
yeah, they said June, but the way things have been going for AMG,
I'm not expecting
we'll
June.
See. I won't hold my breath.
Yeah,
it would be awesome if it did, but I won't count my chickens.
I've been playing it. I've been playing games as a whole for a very long time, and we can't say this while Nick and I looked at board games recently, Primal, and expect release dates to be when they say, because I'm sorry,
just
the production for this stuff is apparently just really weird too.
Hard.
And I can sort of understand why. There's a lot of tiny moving parts that have to go into this. So, but that's worth mentioning. That if you happen to see any like oddities about some of this stuff, it's potentially that these are genuinely their model prototypes that they were like, we finally get to announce this. We're really excited. Here's what we've got. Take a look. And they weren't waiting for sort of the floor models to come out. So
yeah, that's fine. So I think you'll see it, just probably not this year. Which granted, the year ends in 2 months. So
yeah, I get the whole getting the hype going and everything for it, but it's kind of unfortunate when they do a reveal and they don't show any gameplay. Just because now obviously that brings a lot of speculation. But like right now, it's kind of hard to give my like get like a really solid opinion on it because there's a lot of questions on what's it gonna do. Like it looks nice, but it's all about gameplay, right? So,
The sculpts are phenomenal.
yeah,
I think that's worth mentioning. I think the bigger scale lets them do a little bit more with these Jedi than Legion. And I like the scale of Legion. I think they do a good job giving them enough detail for how small they are and for how expansive the map is. But like Count Dooku in this is like he looks phenomenal. I mean, Obi-Wan basically looks
even Jango looks great. I think Jango looks awesome.
I was watching a video earlier where the guy points out that Ahsoka's head tails are like way more detailed than they'd ever be able to get the one for Legion.
Yeah, you can clearly see like the little ridges in between the colors on her head tails that are on this model as opposed to what will probably be on the Legion one.
That's what I'm most excited for, is just like a slightly larger scale Star Wars miniatures game. Not only because they're going to be a little bit easier to paint the details on, but just like having the Jedi be larger and more flashy is really exciting for me. I think this is very cool. And I hope that it plays as well as MCP plays and is supported better in terms of mission objectives than MCP is supported.
I think you just gave it a good tagline. I hope it is. I hope it's cool, and I hope it plays as well, or whatever the hell you just said. That should be the slogan for the game. Is it looks cool and it plays as well as MCP.
Yeah.
Marketing, boys. We nailed the marketing.
It's too easy.
All right. So, final thoughts. Anybody before we wrap up?
Looks cool.
I guess it looks cool. The only thing I want to say is that it does give the option for going super crazy Star Wars campaigny, kind of doing one of those kind of things where maybe you can think of some story campaign where you play an Armada battle, then have an X-Wing battle, and then you have a Legion battle, and then you have a Shatterpoint battle to make some...
Oh, there's Imperial Assault too. You can't forget that. If it's indoors...
Well,
only if it's indoors.
Cover that.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it gets rid of that. Now it totally gets rid of that whole idea. Now it's bigger scale
Imperial
and it's
Assault.
Yeah. All right.
Unfortunately for Imperial Assault, I think.
Yeah, sorry to the Imperial Assault guys.
I don't know if that's gonna. They've hinted at maybe someday there'll be a second edition. Supposedly, I've heard that on Crabbock.
No way.
Oh yeah.
Videos and stuff like that,
I believe it.
But
maybe if the Marvel game does well. That's my only thing, is if the Marvel game, which I hope that's all it is. It's just Marvel Imperial Assault. But that is I think that's gonna do it. We've said what we've said, and to quote Ryan, it looks pretty cool. So that's what I prefer. So guys, let us know what you think. Yes, you sitting there on your phone or on your computer. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help, because
I've heard
we're growing. We're big growing boys, and it really does help us out a lot. I'm a small man. I want to be a bigger man, and it helps if you subscribe. That is it, guys. And it's always going to be worth noting, especially for a game like this, always make sure to roll your crits, and I promise we'll never lose. Bye, guys. We love you. Peace.